So I don't know. So I think this might have been a Chicago wrestling thing, but are you familiar with Baron von Raschke?
No.
No. His big move was the claw, the claw. And he put it on the temple. And he appeared to be of a certain era of German, seemed to have certain alignments there. The Baron, is another clue. But he had the claw. And folks, that's what we're going to talk about tonight and we've talked about them before. Claw machines for the homeowner. Allegedly, there's another one, maybe sort of out you could buy. It we on 19K Fox, the YouTube channel, he talked about it and shared, brought up the screen with the information on it on Wow Books or something along those lines.
Books
It's
a million.
Books a Million. There you go. Yeah. So I didn't even need to do the caption. Thank you. Um, Books a Million. But as I tried to in the up to the minute preparation I do for the show, decided to follow that link before I started up the Zoom meeting here, and it's 4:04 now. There's nothing there anymore. Um, so we're talking about something that may be there, maybe from Arcade One Up. There's certainly no hint of it on the Arcade1Up site.
The
So
Arcade1Up site, as far as I'm concerned now, is basically useless. Even when new things do come out, they leak somewhere else long before there's an official Arcade1Up release.
yeah, so it was the Google couldn't seem to turn up any hint of it either as well. But we do have, and we'll share a link to the video and screen grab of what was up in a period of time. So we've talked about claw machines before. You're a budding arcade owner. As you continue to build out your item, continuing to ignore key critical advice from your YouTube partner, which I'm not going to go into it again, but you continue to ignore it. But I think you had considered a claw machine as a nice little add-on. Um, from what you saw briefly of this, what are your thoughts on what Arcade1Up might be offering?
So back in the day when Arcade1Up was under seemingly different management at the time, or at least different spokespeople who were the front people for the company, they had actually talked about doing a claw machine. They said that that was one of their most requested things, but they were having trouble kind of figuring it out because ultimately it comes down to they have to be able to kind of flat pack it in order to get it into stores. Because while the X Games Mini did eventually end up in Sam's Club and Costco and things like that, they were not in your local Walmart or electronics store, mom and pop electronic stores and things. Whereas the Arcade1Up machines were. So it was all about flat packing it. And they were having trouble figuring that out with the mechanics of it, and also keeping the price point semi reasonable. So I'm not surprised one eventually made it to market. And it's pretty funny because I was going to suggest we do a show on whatever happened to Arcade One because they really haven't released anything new in quite a while. It's just repackages of their existing products. It didn't seem like they were interested in licensing anything new or moving forward with any kind of new product. So, and in a way, I guess this isn't because they talked about this a few years ago, and it is reaching us in the way that almost every piece of Arcade1Up news does anymore, which is it gets leaked on some website first and then pulled down, and then maybe it'll come out eventually.
Yeah. So what's your odds on this thing actually ever existing for people to order?
It's really tough to say with Arcade1Up because as anybody who follows their stuff knows, there's a bunch of cabinets that have appeared in their behind the scenes videos when they're showing their shop and things like that that you can see in the background quick flashes of as hints of things to come that never came. And a leak like this even led to them losing a license for SNK. They were supposed to do a Neo Geo cabinet. That ended up going to Unico. and they put out the 3/4 scale Neo Geo cabinet. Unico, which it actually makes sense in the long run because Unico is run by a lot of former SNK people, so they have familiarity with the hardware and games and everything. So it probably worked out for the best that way. But yeah, it's hard to say if this is. I mean, I feel like much like Nintendo's, you know, imposed scarcity of their systems when they get released to build up hype, these leaks, you have to assume Arcade1Up is in a large part behind them, especially when they pop up in the backgrounds of their own videos and things. But at the same time, it's definitely bit them in the ass though, because it's taken them, months and months to get some of these out to market. How long was it when we talked about the Casino Cade before it actually came out? And that was something they officially announced. So it takes them months and months. They've even lost licenses over things like this. So I don't know that this strategy works for them.
Yeah, and I'm still not. So there's that behavior, which makes you skeptical. And I'm not necessarily convinced we're not being clawfished here. And that there is nothing. Because even you look at the image that's there, it's like, I mean, I don't mean to get all Trump on everybody and go, it's AI, but it might be AI. I don't know. It looks a little I don't know, doesn't look great. And no coin slot, at least on the one photo that I've been able to see of it, no coin slot, which seems of any machine, we have been cool to the need for coin slots on most of the stuff because they're non-functional decorative. But if this was a functional coin slot, it's a good way to, bilk some money out of your friends and family, help pay for new arcade machines. And so I don't know if it's there. It would be if this exists, it's going to be closer. It's going to run that kind of 75% size. So you're talking maybe around 60 inches or so tall, which would be all right. I don't see how they can get over the flat pack thing because that whole mechanic for the claw, outside of likely being a very finicky mechanic, would be my guess, is not one that it's got some complexity to it. So I don't know how well that's going to travel to say, oh, just put this highly fragile device together by yourself. It's not a plug and play from there. So I don't know. The other, and we'll include a link in the description to our previous claw machine discussion. That one was only like 33 inches tall, and it
Yeah,
was,
that was a tabletop kind of thing.
yeah,
And honestly, this form, as he points out in the video, form factor wise, this looks almost identical to that, just with the height of an Arcade1Up system. That's all.
yeah. So I don't know. And I mean, I guess it fits in the world of retro gaming, and it would be, it does seem like a nice to have. But the earlier tabletop one, bar top one we looked at, it was around $365. This one appears to be like it's going to be going for $499. I get the increase in cost. Claw technology is not cheap, so I can see if you're adding height to it, how that price point would move. But um, this, I think this be maybe one of our easier skip it listed buy it's. But Mike, for the Arcade1Up alleged claw machine, are you a skip it, list it, or buy it?
I'm gonna have to see a couple reviews of it, but probably a buy it.
Really?
Yeah. I do want a claw machine overall. And my nephew, my middle nephew, is obsessed with the idea of us having a claw machine. Like since it occurred to him that this is basically an arcade in the house, he has been asking for a claw machine. To a degree now where it's just like, can we please get a claw machine? That's all. And I'm like, there isn't a good one home option yet. It's just these kind of tabletop ones, which we're not going to do. I need something that's in line with the arcade cabinets. What I will say, and the reason that I need to see more is because I need to see the mechanics of this and how well this actually works. I have a suspicion that this is going to be very narrow, that this will be, probably the same width as their arcade cabinets. That's what I'm imagining this is going to be.
Yeah. And I mean, and you can make up a little bit for that with a little bit of depth, but the overall, the killing ground of the claw um, base there, it's going to be a little limited because you got to leave room for the hatch
Yeah.
to drop it
Yeah,
in.
I don't think this is going to be a large capacity machine. The person in the video that I sent you was like, concerned about what to fill this with. I don't think it's going to hold very much. I think it's going to be the same structurally as their arcade cabinets, just with a straight front to it. And I think that the container that holds the stuff will be relatively small. It'll be where the monitor area would be.
Makes sense. Well, I'm a skip it because it now if they put one out on the VR store for me to use, uh, I'll do this. I'll do the virtual reality version of a claw game. And we still are on the hunt for a developer out there that will help us recreate all the Sega electromechanical games in VR because I think that's would be magic. But no one's written, no one's called, no one's left a YouTube message. So apparently the electromechanical market's not quite what I think it is. So it's the way it goes.
So that's a skip it for you, definitely.
That's 100% skip it for me.
Let me paint a quick picture for you before we let everybody
Go
go.
right ahead. Paint away.
It's Christmas morning. Excited children come down the stairs, up the stairs, whatever the layout happens to be. If anyone watching's home, all the gifts are in a claw machine. They have a preset number of tries. Get gifts out of there. Whatever they don't get carries over to the next gift giving holiday. This machine will pay for itself relatively quickly.
That's um that's compelling. That's good. I have tended to go more Thunderdome for type of thing. There's one gift, one person walks out with the gift, kind of thing. Because that also is another way to kind of manage your expenses.
Bog Panda.